everybody. Good morning. It's good to be here. Myself, Victor, Christina, Jeremy will open it up in just a second for questions. But from the four of us, oh, you want me to talk to a microphone? From the four of us, we really just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your day. You get the story out for us, and this is an important mission for the country and for the world. And we do not get that messaging out without you all. So we really appreciate freedom of press, and we appreciate your attendance here today. For the four of us, I don't know who looked down at 39A on the way in, but there's a beautiful rocket down there on the pad, and we are getting ready to watch Zena, Mike, Kimiya, and Oleg on Crew 11 launch here later this week, and that's going to be awesome. But the four of us are here for this MPPF, Multi-Payload Processing Facility test in the Orion spacecraft. So later today, we'll get suited up in the launch and entry suits. We will head over to the MPPF, and we will get in our vehicle. For the first time, the four of us will be in the Orion spacecraft. And with that, we'll open it up for questions.
Please raise your hand if you have a question.
Hi, I'm Marcia Denny. There's nothing in stone after Artemis II, and so much uncertainty surrounding not just that program, but so many. How is that impacting you guys, both in your training and also personally, all the changes going on right now, uncertainty?
I'll start, and I'll hand it to Victor. We are, I'll give the cliche that we are heads down on Artemis II. We are proud to be a part of this crew and this mission, and this is a very important mission for the country. And we have an amazing team that is supporting us. We also, every time we talk to that team, we do not shy away from the reality that we are in. And we really think that Artemis is the right program at the right time to get a sustained human presence on around the moon and off to Mars. And we believe in it. So we're going to go fly Artemis II. We're going to proceed with this mission. We're going to execute as perfectly as we can for the team on the ground. We're going to make them proud. We're going to make the whole nation and the world proud. So that's what we're going to do. Good? Okay.
Hi, thanks. Richard Trevor on Sentinel. Good to see you guys again. Are you still training to the level where you might be able to launch as early as February, or are you really geared towards that no later than April date? And as part of that, can you just outline the timeline? Today you're going into the ship really for the first time since NASA got a hold of it, is that right?
Yeah, great question. I think that obviously April is the official date. We are always, as a team, looking for opportunities to launch sooner, and some of those opportunities are as early as February. We are excited that today is the first time that we will all be in the vehicle since it's been in this facility, and we're going to be in there together, which is really exciting. That's a first all around. Some of us have had different opportunities to interact with flight hardware on different trips, and obviously that's always an incredible day. But when you're in your launch and entry suits, you're with the crew you're going to be on the pad with, that is absolutely phenomenal. There are more tests that we're coming back for, actually even in a couple weeks. There are crew countdown tests, there are joint sims, there is launch and recovery training for different situations after splashdown. There's a lot of really real dynamic training events coming up over the coming months, and we're so eager to execute those. Every single day feels more and more real, more and more chances to do the actual mission with the actual folks we're going to be with, and we just couldn't be more excited.
To cover the piece about, are we still training in a fashion to be able to go earlier? Because the launch date is no later than April, the only way to actually make it no later than is to have some options to pull that forward. And so we will be ready when the vehicle and the team are ready.
Hey guys, Bill Harvey with CBS News. For anybody who wants to, can you all talk a little bit about your heat shield? And the reason I'm asking is the independent review board, obviously cleared it and said it's good to fly, even though it's the same one that had problems last time. I know you have a lofted trajectory this time around. It's not going to be this gifted for your original plan. But there are people out there who've said, it's only an astronaut or two has come out and said they don't think this is the right way to go. So what makes you comfortable with this? Since you're the guys whose lives are on the line, you obviously think it's okay to fly, but tell us why and what the concern is. Thanks.
The concern was in-plane cracking that was discovered due to permeability on the previous heat shield. It's very well documented online. I recommend everybody go read the report. It's really fascinating. There's some great pictures and a lot of great technical background in there. We had what was called the Charlos team at NASA, and it was headed in the Orion program, and they did a tremendous amount of research. A lot of kind of groundbreaking research in some facilities that we had not used before. And they discovered the root cause, which was the key to this whole team, was let's figure out the root cause, and then let's see where do we need to go. Artemis III will fly a different architecture. Artemis II, they pulled the data and they scrubbed and they did wind tunnel testing and laser testing and hypervelocity testing, and they determined that if we come in with this lofted profile with a 1775 horizontal target line downrange, that this heat shield will be safe for us to go fly. We're actually even looking now at pulling that back even a little bit more to give us some flexibility on landing day, so they think there's a little more capability in this heat shield than at first they realized. So I think all that points in the direction of goodness. And I think if you as a human being that was about to board this rocket had sat in the meetings that we sat in and listened to the experts and gone through the data with them, you would have the same comfort that we do.
Yeah, and I think it's important to, well said, and I won't readdress any of that. But you brought up, former astronauts and other space professionals, industry professionals who have had comments on this. A lot of those are outsiders that haven't been in these meetings from day one and met the team and looked them in the eye and shook their hands at the ends of these meetings. But the other thing is, I don't want to discount the things that they've said. Anytime you talk about fire, anytime you talk about entry and heat shields, you talk about parachutes, these are high risk things that are sometimes they don't have fault tolerance built in. They have to work. And so I appreciate all of that nudging and poking and prodding that they've caused. They have made us sharpen our pencils and put more due diligence, more vigilance into that process. And so, but I think we've done that. And so I think the crew is comfortable because of that team, and we know how many people were looking at this. But at the end of the day, they were thinking about us and our families when they were doing their jobs.
And I would say that that appropriate skepticism led us to a culture, which is actually ultimately why we are comfortable. That culture is not about litigating a case of why we can fly. It's about doing the science to understand the systems and then making a decision based on that. That could be either rationale to fly or to not fly. And that's ultimately what got us to this point of being comfortable.
Yeah, I just want to put a little bit more emphasis on the fact that I think it's really important that this story gets told, and it's great that you're asking about it, because this should be characterized as a true American success story. I mean, this country now knows things about heat shield technology it didn't know. And that's the art. That's when you know you're pushing the boundaries, is when you figure something out you didn't know. And what they've done with all this learning is they put it in this category of us being able to understand the risk and make a risk trade. And now for us, when we look at the heat shield risk, there's always going to be a risk there, but it is in family with all the other risks we're going to take on a mission to leave Earth and fly around the moon.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks, everybody. One last thing that we wanted to hit on was this IRT, the independent review team. I think the reason it's important to stress not only the great work that they did, but just from the very beginning with Artemis I, it did take a little bit for the pictures to come out in the press, and I think people felt like we were maybe just trying to bury this, but it has been the most open, the most forthcoming. Hey, come see our data. You're from the outside, here's our data, come look at this data. And we've really actually honored those outside perspectives and those former astronauts. One of them was on the independent review team and had a big part, two of them actually, Charlie and Dana had a big part in getting that thing going.
I come from Italy, from Europe, and it's a very difficult time from geopolitical point of view. So, what's the meaning of moon exploration for international cooperation in this very hard time?
Well, I guess I'm international here. I could comment on it. I think this is just such a shining example of collaboration, and it just deserves to be celebrated. There's always going to be tensions in the world. There's always going to be things as humans we're going to be working on, and they're very real. And like Reed started, we acknowledge all of the challenges in front of us. We're not obtuse to them. However, at the same time, there's this really great example from NASA history of Gene Kranz and Apollo 13. I don't know exactly how it went down. I have my data from the movie. But there's a great story there where you have the spacecraft has exploded. Everyone's thinking we're going to lose these astronauts in space. And the entire mission control team is telling the flight director, what is wrong with the spacecraft? And he just stops everybody and he turns it on its head and he says, I need to know what we have good. What's left on the spacecraft that is good? And let's start using the pieces we got to move forward. And we have something extraordinary here that is good in this space program. And we're going to use it to demonstrate that example of the great things we can do, and we can collaborate. This is an extraordinary example of American space leadership that leaves room, carves out space for other partners to show up with their genius and contribute. I'm so proud of how Canada is showing up here and what we're contributing, and we're going to fly on the European service module. There's just a lot of really magical collaboration here.
You know, the tough times are evident for all of us, you know, but I think this mission also just gives us something to look up to, right? Going out there and looking at from the press site to the launch site, as the vehicle is on ascent, you're literally going to look up, but also in our hearts, we have something to look forward to and to look up to. And so I think all of us deserve that. This is the first international crew that's going to go to the moon and back. But really, you know, the Artemis Accord signifies that this is a mission for all people, right? That's been important to us from the very beginning. You see it in our crew patch, right? That says A2, but it also very intentionally looks like all. Because this is a mission that hopefully humanity looks forward to. And like Reed said earlier, we want to make everybody proud, our internal teammates and our external teammates. And hopefully this is addressing that in one small way, that, you know, it is tough times for all of us, but this will be something that all of us can root for, hopefully full-throated.
Hi, Brett Tingley, Space.com. Aside from the heat shield and trajectory issues we talked about earlier, what lessons from Artemis I are directly shaping how you train and prepare for Artemis II?
Gosh. The first thing that comes to mind, all of them, yes, correct. Okay, next question. So the flight control team had to train for that mission. You know, we've interjected this weird thing called a crew, you know, put humans in the little squishy bodies into the spacecraft. But that team has gone through the process before, and we're leaning heavily on that. Is there more to do? Yes, but also the structure that oversees risk real time is the flight control team, but the structure that the system and team that manages the mission risk is called a mission management team, and we had to do that before. And so there's lots of ways. I mean, the vehicle has some new hardware, but a lot of it is the same, and so we're leaning on the learnings from Artemis I. Everywhere we go, we congratulate the folks who made that mission possible, and we really are leaning on all of the lessons from Artemis I. Something that I think is, you know, talking about, you started this by talking about some of the challenges, and you didn't mention the SLS, the Space Launch System, the rocket. That rocket taught us a whole bunch about getting it out to the pad, getting it launched, but then even in flight, it had some things that you may have recalled from shuttles, debris coming off and things, and we have taken that and put it into the design of this new rocket that's going to make it more robust and give us a little bit more launch availability. So, I mean, depending on how you want to slice and dice this, you could find lessons all throughout everything that we're doing: training, testing, and then integrated operations and fault management. It's affected everything that we're doing. We're trying to be a learning organization.
And there's one thing I'd love to add, which is that we have said ever since we were chosen as crew, and it's been on posters around all the centers, that in some ways the huge success of Artemis I is actually something we need to think about as a risk or even a threat to Artemis II, because we have to keep our vigilance up. So I would say one of the things we learned is that despite our successes, we have to keep asking hard questions, and we have to keep tracing down things that are acting like we don't expect.
Hi, Megan Moriarty with West 2 News right here on the Space Coast. Almost 4,000 NASA employees have accepted that deferred resignation program, so leading to a reduction in the workforce. Are there any concerns for astronaut safety? And then also, how do we ensure or get political leaders and lawmakers to care and continue funding NASA?
I think part of that we will defer to public affairs, because it definitely gets a little bit touchy. We've all had friends that have decided to leave the agency, not just now, but in the past. And we have, like Victor was saying, like Ed was saying, the mission management team and our team leadership, they are intact, they are sound. The best part to me is that we talk about that exact topic at every high-level meeting we have. Where are our numbers? Are we losing critical folks? Are we extending critical folks? So I just think the open, honest communication is what is super important. And it does hurt to lose friends. We have said goodbye to some really good friends, but at the end of the day, we absolutely have the team across the board right now. Finch, the mating of the vehicle, get over to the LASIF, get the Orion encapsulated in the launch abort system, and then bring it over to the VAB, and then get us through the certification of flight readiness, and launch. And safe, 3 good mains splash down off the coast of San Diego for, right? So we very much have a lot of confidence in this team, but we're watching.
And to kind of the question that Marcia asked earlier, ties to this, how do we get the leaders to care, our elected officials to care? We don't know what a year from now is going to look like, a year and a half from now, but we know exactly what we have to do for the next 6 months, and we're a part of a team that is focused and knows what we have to do. And I think we could worry about a lot of things that we can't affect, but we can affect mission success. And so we are clear-eyed on making Artemis II a success, and that's the best way to get them to care, to invest, and to decide and change behaviors. And it also is the best way to ensure that there may be something beyond Artemis III. And so I think those are tied together. That's what we are doing over the next 6 months, trying to make this investment worthwhile.
And now you motivated me to say one more thing, which is, I do want to go on the political side just for a second. We're going to leave here and we're going to go meet the interim administrator, who we haven't had a chance to meet yet, but he's in town with his family, so we're going to go say hi to him. And then I just have to say, we get to travel the nation and the world, and we get to see the outpouring of public support for us. It's pretty impressive. We get to see the technical might of this nation. It's pretty impressive. But there are no receptions like we get in a bipartisan meeting on the Hill. When we walk in there, it is so clear that this is what the nation wants to go do, and this is what our political leadership wants to go do. We want to go explore space with humans. However we do it, that's up to other people, but that is what our nation wants to do.
I was worried when you
Any additional questions on the DRP can be rerouted through PAO after this news conference. Next question.
Bert Dick, I'm with the National Space Society, and kind of a follow-up to that about the political side, but the public side of it. We just had the 56th anniversary of Apollo 11. I've talked to a lot of students, and to them it's just something in the history books. And I'm just wondering, I know you have a lot of training still to do. Have you given thought to the public perception of the first crewed flight back to the moon in 54 years? And for me, it's exciting, and I was there for the Apollo 11, so just want to see, do you have any thoughts about that?
I think one of the big thoughts that we have is exactly what you said, that this is a big milestone, and milestones mean something to people. There's something you can latch onto. There's something that young folks can see as where we are at in the state of the art in our technological prowess across the world, in our international esteem, and how we can be leaders in a new space and a new frontier. And for us, I think the challenge, in addition to just head down, working, making sure that we are contributing in every way possible to make this a success, is articulating the why. Why is this so important? What are the benefits, both scientific, technological, national preeminence, leadership, that bring benefits not only back to our country, but to the entire Earth? How do we articulate that? And that's something that we need your help to do, and that's why we're here today. And we appreciate that there's interest in what we're doing, that we see it as a tick in the win column for all of humanity, not just America. And we love telling that story. It's something we've been passionate about our whole lives.
Hi, Will Robinson-Smith with Spaceflight Now. Good to see you all again. With the exception of obviously going through a dry dress rehearsal with a rocket at the pad, what's the biggest training milestone that is still left ahead of you? And maybe just a quick question, have you given any thought to the name of the spacecraft yet? Thanks.
Good question.
I think we'll let Victor handle that one.
Great question. Yes, we have. I could riff on this some more, but it is a great question.
TBD.
Even going back to this question, what you said, I think we understand, okay, NASA's mission is to explore the unknown in aerospace, to innovate for the benefit of humanity, and to inspire the world through discovery. Those things all matter, and we call the collective things that humanity accomplishes moonshots. But that's so far in our past that, this mission is an opportunity for our generation, right? Artemis I is a success we're building on. But now those young folks, not now, hopefully, middle of next year, those young folks will have an event that happened in their lifetime that they can say, yeah, that's right, we can do those things. And so we think about all of that and what, you know, what does it mean to have a name that kind of, you know, Artemis is one of those. Our spacecraft is the Orion spacecraft, but can we add something to that is also inspirational, that we can kind of make our own? And so you'll just have to stick around and this gentleman's been on the left side of the room.
On the training side, we have a tremendous number of milestones. I'll make this a pretty quick answer. Right now, we are in this amazing cadence of 2 major case simulations a week. Generally, they're on Tuesdays and Fridays. And we are just grinding that out with the flight control team. Victor and I yesterday delayed our travel down here to go do an ascent run all the way through our apogee raise burn. So we were in the sim for about 6 hours before we left for the airport. So those are happening, and I think for us, that's like the bread and butter of being an astronaut. Working with our flight control team and mission control, the launch control team here, and then our ULA counterparts out in Denver, everybody on the loops at the same time. It's absolutely awesome. So that is kind of our cadence up to launch. We do have real-time mission simulators coming up in Denver where we're running the real flight hardware, the real flight software. We have events like we're doing here today and tomorrow. So there are some major milestones, but the underlying cadence is 2 sims a week, cranking it out and getting ourselves ready. And one of the cool things that's been happening recently for the 4 of us is laughter. So we have been together long enough that we've kind of done the forming, storming, and norming part, and we are getting to that point where I know it's cliche, it's the second time I've used that word, but we are really hitting on all cylinders, and we are almost to the point where we can just look at each other and know exactly, hey, this person's in need, or this person's in a great mood, or this person's got a great idea. And when we hit that point, and we're very close, then we'll launch.
Alex from Telemundo. Speaking of the training, what part of the training have you found the most challenging and why? And has it been more rigorous than you expected?
Talking to the press. Next.
Talking to the press. Something, we were walking out of a class in the parking lot, and just some words that were shared with us really hit me, the weight on me, and I just wasn't expecting this, but our ability to observe the moon is potentially going to be unique. We may see a part of the moon illuminated by our sun that human eyes have not seen, and so the desire to see the colors and the texture and the contacts and to be able to add to this scientific encyclopedia that is known about the moon. I mean, we have imagery, but the human eye can see things that cameras can't see, right? The Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter has given us a ton of data to help start this investigation, but we may be able to move it forward, even if it's 1 inch. And the fact that that team, like the lunar science team all over the world, is counting on us to provide that, I guess it's not hard. I guess the weight of that idea really hit me a couple of weeks ago, walking out of Building 9, where we had a giant inflatable moon and we were practicing from the medium fidelity mock-up, taking pictures and making observations. And that just, it hit me as I walked out of there going, wow, we have to move the needle. And so that to me has been, I think, maybe the most profound part of all this training. Right? We know we come to work to go fly spaceships. We put humans in space and we put space in humans, but boy, that to me was a heavy idea and reason.
I'll talk about part of what we've been doing that was actually a surprise to me. Not necessarily to technical training or work in the vehicle, but going out into industry all over this country and meeting the teams that are working piece parts, that are building components, where all of this starts. Being on factory floors, being in manufacturing facilities, talking to the folks, getting technical briefings on all the ways that they are going to keep us safe, and it starts right there. Really recognizing the industrial base that is needed and the industrial know-how to get this mission accomplished and how important that is for our industry and aerospace, that was a huge part of our training that was not only a surprise, but just an absolute honor.
Hey, John Cross, thank you for being here. When it comes to crew cohesion, what's been the most important part of training for that? Is it the simulator runs? You do off-site stuff like mountaineering, there's fighter jets. But in terms of building that crew cohesion, what's been most important?
The answer is really simple. It just really comes down to making time. It's not what you do, it's that you create space for that to happen. And so we have done it in Iceland on a geology training trip where we carved out a couple of day expedition that was really designed just for that, to put us under stress, make just a tough trek. uncertain weather, those types of things, and then see, and then talk about how we interact with each other and how we could do better. We had an outside observer who was coaching us, and so just like you go to the gym and you have coaches, we reach externally for coaches to look at us, see how we behave, and give it, hey, have you thought about this? And we've learned a lot about ourselves and how we can help each other better. We work with our behavioral folks at the Johnson Space Center on a regular basis. We've really leaned into that team. And there can be an aversion to like opening yourselves up to that because you'll be judged. And this crew, and I'm really proud to say, really leaned into that. We've been very open and honest, and the results have been really rewarding.
2 more questions.
Hey there, Miles Warren with CBS News. Last month they had the big Valiant exercise off the coast here. And I was curious, 2 questions. One, what are your thoughts? How do you just approach the idea of being in a situation where you would have to abort? And then secondly, can you just reflect on this huge team that's going to be in place on launch day and thereafter, kind of ready to come get you guys if you ever end up in that situation?
I guess I'll start with that one. Reflecting on that team, I mean, we've been able to meet them and spend time with them, work with them, operate in their environment, out on the ocean, working with our DoD counterparts and our detachment down at Patrick that integrates NASA and the Department of Defense. And when I think about that team, I'm really grateful that we have them on our side. They make it possible for us to do this. But they're not just spooling up for Artemis. They've been supporting us through our ramping up Boeing launch capabilities, through our Dragon and Falcon flights to the space station, and they even staff their emergency operations center for Soyuz launches and landings. So they've been supporting us. The office that I'm talking about specifically, their original name was the DoD Mercury Spaceflight Support. And so they've been around since the beginning. And I have the utmost confidence in them. I tried to jump out of the airplane for Valiant. They wouldn't let me because they say I got this important thing to do in a year. But that team is just, they're consummate professionals, and that makes it possible. And I don't mean that in like a platitude way. The reason you said, thinking about the possibility of aborting, actually the reason we can have the launch windows that we have is because we have an ability to abort. Full spectrum. There is no period of the launch or the ascent where we are stuck on the vehicle and couldn't get away to if something is going badly. And so that possibility happens when we go into quarantine, right? We're going in quarantine to launch to space. And the ability to launch this vehicle on this mission is because we have launch abort capability, pre-launch or after we get airborne and spaceborne. And so that team that has to come and get us if something goes wrong is a part of making sure that everybody, that team I talked about earlier, that mission management team, they can make decisions clear-eyed and clear-minded and clear-hearted because they know that this team is ready, the ground team, launch and mission control is ready, and also our DoD external partners are ready. They have been training longer than we've been assigned to this mission. For years, like a decade, they've been preparing for this mission. And so I have the utmost confidence in them.
Last question.
Sawyer Rosenstein with NSF. Obviously, we've heard about some of the larger things like the heat shield and all that, but are there any kind of the smaller, little technical sort of watch items on your list that we might not know about? Things that you obviously expect to get done in time for launch, but that you're keeping a close eye on as it's being developed or worked on or prepped for flight?
Yeah, we definitely have things that we're watching. There are things on the operations side that the crew is always watching, but then there's things on the technical side, and let's be honest, we are not the ones watching them, but we're aware of them. So our side hatch is a fairly complicated hatch, and there are some issues with that, so we're still watching as they're pressing through that. They just finished installing some strakes up at the upper booster mate point on the core stage of the SLS, so that was interesting to watch them go through that and do some open heart surgery and install those. That's really fascinating to me. But every week we sit down with our flight operations leadership team and we get a briefing on exactly where we stand on all these technical issues. And then when we come down to Kennedy, we get to go see the vehicle, see the people. Really, when you get to go stand next to the small team of men and women that are assembling this vehicle, cutting into it, making mods, and doing all the systems testing, like that's where the rubber hits the road, and you really get to know this vehicle, and you really get to love these people. So overall, I would say, I do think we're gonna try very hard to launch before April, and it's because of the professionalism that's being executed right here at Kennedy Space Center. I know we're out of time. I really just wanna finish with one little story because we have talked a lot for 2 years really about flying this vehicle out to the moon, but it's only been recently that we've been working with our science team. And you know, I was not alive during Apollo. We are going to go do this for the first time in our lives, and that's a pretty awesome thing. But I always in my mind had this lingering thought of, Apollo's been there, Apollo's seen this. The other day we were with our science team, and they put up a picture of the far side of the moon. And over half of that picture was in a dark gray, and a little bit under half that picture was in a light gray. And they said, the dark gray has never been seen by human eyes, ever. Because Apollo always launched in a certain lume and a low lunar orbit where they did not get to see the bulk of the far side. And so for us, that opened my eyes, that this is a little bit different. This is something very unique. And we are very likely going to see things that no human eye has ever seen. And the one that really stood out to me was Oriental Basin, which is like the textbook cratering system for the whole solar system. It's the one that like every young geologist studies for cratering. And no human has ever seen it, ever. And to me, like if we get to come around that as we see it from the Earth, the west side, but as we'll see it from space, the east side, and see Oriental there and look to the left and see Apollo, and then look far off to the left and see Moskowiecki and Tsiolkovsky, like that is, it's making my skin go, my hair go up right now. Like that is the thing that was igniting the fire in all of us a few weeks ago. Any last words?
Yeah, there's one that we wanted to end with, and that is, we're here for some really important tests this week that are on the milestones for Artemis II, but something really important is happening tomorrow. ISS has been on the pathway to getting humans to the moon and Mars for a long time, and will continue to do so. And 4 of our good friends are launching to space on a rocket tomorrow. So let's give them a good send-off with some positive energy. Maybe you can join us and go Crew 11 on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Go Crew 11!